What is going on? In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an automation in n8n. And in this example, we're building an AI workflow. We're not building an actual agent. I'll have other videos coming out showing you how to do that later. But I want to keep this one simple, especially if you're a beginner with n8n. This will show you how to build a simple workflow. And in this example, it's going to be for an e-commerce brand. So for this example, it's going to be a brand who wants to map their meta spend versus their new customers. There's a couple other metrics that we'll throw in there, but this will give you an idea of a simple workflow you can build and give you really an idea of what you can do with your own business. So I'll show you the prompt that I gave ChatGPT to get this output in a second, but the general overview of this is all of the data is being fed into Google Sheets, and obviously the data is coming from other sources like Meta or Shopify. So you will need an API connector or something like that to get the data actually populating into Google Sheets. But for this example, we have it already populated into Google Sheets. From there, we connect OpenAI, and then finally we connect Gmail, which is where we're going to get the output. So I'll go ahead and show you what I got from ChatGPT, and that kind of gave me the overall layout of what we're doing here. So now we're in ChatGPT, and I'll take you through the prompt that I gave it real quick to give it the general idea of what I'm looking for. So I said I want to create an n8n workflow that will automatically summarize the data in a Google Sheet and send a weekly email report. The report should show the correlation between data, example, new checkout revenue, new customers, meta spend, and 7-day click conversions, and how meta spend and conversions drive incremental new customer revenue. In addition to the email report, consider if there's a way to give an output that visualizes this data in a graph, and if so, what potential connections in n8n could do this. And so what ChatGPT came out with is, yes, this is possible. We're going to read and summarize data from Google Sheets. We're going to analyze correlations, for example, between meta spend, 7-day click conversions, etc. And we're going to send a weekly email report with a written summary and visual graphs. And it went ahead and laid out the actual workflow, starting with the automation trigger. So that's the actual schedule trigger that we have right here. From there, we have a Google Sheets node, which is connected right here. Then next we have the data analysis. So this is where we're actually connecting this code node here because we need to actually analyze the data that's in here. Then we have the graph and chart visualization. I originally had this in here. I took it out because I was just having too many issues trying to connect the HTTP request. I'll probably make another video later on once I figure out how to do that, but I was just getting too many issues. The next is the OpenAI model, which we connected. And then finally the Gmail output, which is going to send the weekly email report. So here's the general overview right here. Again, you have the trigger, you have reading the sheets, you have the OpenAI model, and then finally the Gmail. It gave some other recommendations like Notion, but I didn't include that just to keep it simple for this video. So if we go back to this, I'll go into each one and show you what it looks like to actually connect them. So if you've never used n8n, these are just nodes. These are basically different things you can connect to each other that will essentially communicate with each other and build your workflow. So if we click on schedule trigger, I'll hit open. And in here, you'll see there's a bunch of things, but the main things are the trigger interval. So you can do weeks, minutes, hours, days. I did it once every week. I want it to trigger on a Monday. I want it to come in at 9 a.m. You can add rules. You can remove rules, all kinds of things you can do here, but that's what it looks like for the trigger. Then we'll go into Google Sheets. So you hit open. Of course, you're going to have to connect with your Google account. So this will connect to your actual specific sheets. Another thing I'll say to make sure is that your sheets have access. When I first did this, the output gave me a sheet, but then I would click on the sheet and it would say you can't view this data. So make sure that it has access for everyone that has the link. Then within resource, you'll click this and it'll have a list of all your different sheets. And that's where you will actually select the sheet that you want. The operation, I have get rows because we want to actually get the data out of the sheet. There's other ones in here, but for this example, we're going to use get rows. From here, this is the actual documents, like I said. So we're using this one, which is what I created. And down here, there's some other filters you can play around with as well. So that's what it looks like to connect Google Sheets. Then we go into the code node. And this right here, I know looks scary if you're not a coder. I'm not a coder by any means. This is really just an output from ChatGPT. So I'll show you in a second how I got this, but basically you're just going to tell ChatGPT to analyze the data that you have, and it's going to spit out this code for you. So now we're back in ChatGPT, and you can see that all I said was write out exactly step by step how I can create this workflow inside of n8n, right? And it thinks a bit. It says, what is the goal? Let's figure it out. And then it gives you the step-by-step process. So step 1, obviously the trigger. And it gives you some suggestions. Step 2, connect Google Sheets. And then step 3, this is what I was just talking about. So this is the actual code that we're going to give it. And again, ChatGPT just gives you all of this. You don't need to do anything yourself. You don't need to figure anything out. it gives it to you exactly the way that it should go into the node, which is great. And so we'll go back here. You just paste that there. Then we're going to go over to the OpenAI model. We'll hit open. Here you have to connect your OpenAI account. And one thing I'll say here is make sure that you have enough credits, because it does cost credits for every API pull. So just make sure that you have enough money in your account and it will work. If not, you'll get an error. Down here you have resource. So we're just going to do text because we just want text. Operation is message and model. And from the list, you can select different ones. I'm using GPT-4. You can use any of the ones that make the most sense for you, but for this use case, we're using GPT-4. And then the prompt is very simple. It says, summarize the following meta ads performance for the last 7 days. Ideally trends, correlation between ad spend and conversions or revenue, and comment on customer growth. And then it gives some labels as well. And then the roll down here is user, and you can hit simplify output here as well, just to keep it simple. And so that's all you need for the OpenAI. For the settings, I just leave these blank. But yeah, very simple. And then finally, we'll go to email. And so we'll open up email. Obviously, you have to connect your Gmail account again. Resource is going to be message. Operation is going to be send, because we want to send an email. You select the email you want to send it to. You create the subject. Email type is HTML. And then the message, again, this can also be configured by ChatGPT. So what this is basically saying is there are placeholders in here because you want it to be specific to the actual data for that time frame. So that's why you'll see that there's placeholders here, because it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be changing with every single email, right? And so again, you can get that from ChatGPT. Scroll down, send email, and it's going to give you this output, right? So that's what it looks like from a high level overview. I know I went through it kind of quick, but it's a really simple workflow. It does not take very long to set up. This honestly took me maybe 15, 20 minutes to do. I tried to play around with the HTTP one that spent about an hour working on that one, and that one was just not working. So kept it simple, but this is a very simple workflow, and I'll show you what it looks like when you actually execute it. We'll do that now, and you'll see it start to work in a second here. And as it's doing this, each node is talking to the next one, and you'll see that each one will either have a success or an error. And from there, it's going to tell you if there's any errors in the process, which node it's coming from. And then again, you can just copy and paste the error into ChatGPT, and it's going to tell you exactly what it is you need to fix. So now the output is done. You can see we got a success at every single stage. Every single node is firing correctly. And I will go into the email, and you can see exactly what it looks like. So everything looks good. Summary says over the past 7 days, meta ads performance seems to be mixed trend with slight fluctuations observed in ad spend, revenue, new customers, and conversions. And it gives you the ad spend range from the high to the low. It talks about the discrepancy between the lowest and the highest ad spend. It gives you some suggestions. I won't read through the whole thing, but it gives you all that in a nice summary. And in order for it to give you this in these small paragraphs, that's another thing that you have to just do in the actual output. You have to adjust in your formatting, which again, you can just ask ChatGPT, how can I adjust the formatting in the email? And it will do that. Otherwise, it'll give you a big blob of text as one paragraph. So that's just one nice thing that you can do to make it look a little cleaner. It gives you summaries down here in terms of ad spend, conversions, new customers, and revenue. And then finally, you can click into full sheet. You have all the data in here. And then you have these charts as well, which is super nice to have. It's all in one place, and you can look at each one. So you have your summary back here. It gives you a high level overview of each one, all the metrics, and then you can actually look at the visualizations here between, for example, new customers versus gross sales, amount spent versus new customers, however you want to configure it here in your sheets. And so this is now going to fire every single week, Monday at 9 a.m. I'm going to get this report, which is great because I can just wake up, check my email, and without having to check anything else, I get this automated report that I would otherwise have to do manually myself. It just take a lot of time to put all this together versus having AI just do it for me. So that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, then absolutely just let me know. If there's anything that you want me to dive into more specific from this, if confused on anything or running into any problems or issues, just let me know and I can definitely help you troubleshoot. But just wanted to give you an example of a high level workflow that you can create. And yeah, in the next one, I'll probably create something a little bit more in depth. I want to build out an actual agent for the next one to show you what that looks like. But yeah, appreciate you. If you got any value out of this, appreciate you liking, commenting, subscribing if you want to. Always appreciate that. So thank you for taking the time, and I'll see you in the next one.